Hey guys, my name is Rhonda Bill. I'm originally from BC, but I live in Thunder Bay now. For the last 10 years I've lived in Thunder Bay. I am happily married and have 3 children. And for the last few years I have been a caterer by trade. I also love sharing my craft with others in the context of cooking classes. And so I'm excited to do that for you tonight. We are going to make cheese biscuits and chili. So we will start with chili. This is the first of a few food boxes, so you've already received your food box. I'm going to be using the same ingredients that you have in your box, and I'll walk you through each step together. Okay, so let's start with our cheese biscuit dough. So you are receiving a mix that I've already prepared. So it has the flour, the baking powder, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of butter already mixed in. We also have our cheese. So these will be quite easy for you to finish up, and then you get the experience of making homemade biscuits. So we've got our flour, got our cheese. We're going to mix the two together. And all we need now is 3/4 cup of cold water. I use cold water so that the butter in this mixture and the cheese in the mixture is not going to start to get a little soggy. We want it to keep its texture so that when we bake it, it's nice and flaky. So I'm going to get my 3/4 cup. Cold water. There you are. 200 milliliters if you like the metric system better. And now just use a fork and toss it all together. The one thing to remember when we make a quick dough like biscuits is not to overmix it. So I'm just going to add a little bit at a time, give it a mix. Just until it forms a dough. So let's take a look now. So I haven't used all of my water. I'm going to give it a bit of a stir. Let's see. So we want it to clump together into a ball. So, and you can hear that my oven's ready. You want to set your oven at 450 degrees. A little note, I have included a recipe page for you in your box. You can take a look at that page as you go, and you can feel free to pause this at any time if you need to grab any ingredients. I'm going to add the rest of the water just in this section where it needs a bit more moisture. And then let's bring all this together into a ball of dough. All right, so take a look here. It is together in a ball. And you'll notice that I have put a little bit of milk powder into the mix itself. So that's why we're using water and makes it much easier. So if you don't have milk on hand, not a problem. All right, now we're gonna get our hands right in there. So take your dough, form it into a ball. Should be a little bit soft, a little bit sticky. Take a little bit of extra flour and sprinkle it on your work surface. There we go. And all I'm going to do is just turn it a couple times. That's it. 2 or 3 times. That'll bring it all together. Now, I have a rolling pin here. I'm going to roll it out. But for those of you who don't happen to have a rolling pin, not a big deal. You can use a can. I'm using a can of kidney beans. Whatever you have. I'm going to roll this dough out to the thickness that we want. There. And then you can also use your fingers to create that right thickness. There, I'm going to flip it over so you can see it nicely. That is about as thick as what we want. So take a look here. Sort of hard to show, but that's about as thick as we want here. Now I have a cookie cutter, but I also have a cup. And so this is easy. Everyone has a glass or a cup. So you're going to use the opposite end and give it a turn. just like that. If you do have a little bit of milk or cream in your fridge, it's kind of nice when you brush a little bit of milk over the top. The milk gives it a nice shiny brown appearance. If you don't have milk, it will still look lovely. In fact, I'm going to show you a couple with a glaze of milk and a couple without. And then get your pan out. If you have a nonstick baking pan, you don't need any silicone mat or anything. If you happen to have a silicone mat or some parchment paper, you can put a little bit on a pan if you find it sticks. But any old pan will do. There you go. Here's our, there. You can see our thickness much better this way. I'm going to put it on our pan. And then you're going to notice you have some scraps left. Every time I work this dough, it has the potential of getting a little bit tougher. So we want to work it minimally. We don't want to do too much to it. So I'm just going to bring it together. And then make a few more. With the flour mix that I gave you in your box, you are going to have enough for probably 8 biscuits, so 1 pan full of biscuits. There, and here's our last 2. Sometimes if I have a little bit left over, just make a little ball. And that can be a tiny corner biscuit. Okay, so I'm going to brush a couple more. So let's see, we'll do 4 brushed and 4 not. Arrange them on your pan evenly, and I'll show you what this looks like here. With our little friend here. We'll pop it in the oven. My oven is set at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, here we go. Going right in. So I'm washing my hands after that biscuit making. There is so much on it, but I do wash my hands before I start to cook and in between all the different things that you're doing. Give yourself 20 seconds just to make sure all the bacteria is destroyed. So our biscuits are in the oven. They're going to take between 10 and 12 minutes. So I have the timer on the oven. If you have a timer on your phone or your watch or whatever you have, it's really handy because we're going to distract ourselves now by making some chili. So the oven will tell me when it's ready. So let's get started on our chili. We are going to start with some meat. Now, I'm taking mine out of the fridge. Yours came frozen. As long as it's been sitting in your fridge for 1 day, it'll be at the right temperature to cook. So we've got 1/2 pound of lean ground beef. We're going to put it in our pan. I happen to have a deep frying pan here. If you have a pot or a frying pan that has a little bit of an edge, that'll be plenty of space for your chili. Let's turn it on and turn yours on high. So while our meat is frying up, I haven't touched it yet. I'm giving it a little bit of a chance to warm up, and then I'll start breaking it up with a wooden spoon in a few minutes. But for now, I want to show you the vegetables we're going to make in our chili. Everyone was given 1/2 an onion, so I'm going to cut this one in half, the other one aside. And with your onion, I'm going to teach you a basic cutting technique. So you want to take your ends off. With the ends off, it's much easier to get that peel off. So then we just take this peel. This peel can be really slippery. It's no fun to be using a knife on it. Now you'll see I have this giant sharp knife here. You can use a smaller knife to cut your onions and your other vegetables. I'm just very comfortable with this one. I'll show you a technique that makes it much easier and safe for your hands as well. So you want to take your knife horizontally and cut all the way, almost all the way to the end. You want to keep your onion intact. So we're going to do 2 horizontal cuts. and we'll turn it. We're going to do some vertical cuts just with the tip. So for this size of onion, I only need 4 cuts altogether. My onion is still intact. Now the final step, we want to actually slice through the onion all the way to the end. And so this would be considered a small dice. All right, now our pan is heated up. You can hear the sizzle. So we're going to start to fry up this meat. I'm using a wooden spoon. You can use anything like that. If you have a non-stick surface, you want to avoid using a metal spoon, so wooden is a little bit safer. We want to get a little bit of brown on this meat before we add anything else. So as you can see, there's very little pink left. And the meat is almost done. You'll see a little bit of brown as well, and that's the delicious part, which is why I keep my heat high at first, just to give it that brown. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my heat down to medium. And our beef is ready for the onions. So, put these guys in. And then saute these together. All right, so the onion is simmering happily with our meat, and now I'm going to show you how to cut sweet pepper. So everyone got a sweet pepper in your box. It could be green or red, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to start holding it upside down, taking your knife and cutting it from the top all the way down. I'm going to show you with another knife. Say you only have a small paring knife or a steak knife on hand. You can still use this small knife to do the same thing. So we're going to cut around from the top. You're basically cutting around the brain of the pepper. So then you're left with your brain and you've got your pepper left over. So I'm going to switch back to the big knife. I'm going to slice these. I always keep the pepper skin down to keep your knife from slipping. The skin can be very slippery. And then you turn all the sticks sideways and you can do the same thing. You'll notice where my fingers are, I keep them curled under. If you keep your fingers curled under like this, your knife actually uses your knuckles as a guide. And if your left hand is placed in the right place, you don't have to fear chopping any fingernails off or fingers. Okay, so you'll see that the oven is ready to go. It's been 10 minutes, maybe 11 now, so I'm going to show you what these look like. Our biscuits are nice and puffed up. You can tell the ones that had this one here had a little bit of a shine to it because of the milk, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. You can go either way, and these look delicious. So we're going to let these cool a little bit while we finish our chili. I'm going to put them right here. So now we have our green pepper chopped up. I'm going to add it to the pot. Start to saute that together. Already smells great. Finally, we're going to add a little bit of carrot. I like adding some vegetables to my chili. It's up to you if you want to save this carrot and just chop it up and eat it by itself. So now, making a dice with the carrots. Same kind of idea as the green pepper. I turn them into sticks, and then I use my hands like this to create the dice. Now these carrots go in as well. Now we're going to talk about seasoning. The most important seasoning for a chili is obviously chili powder. So everyone received a little container of chili powder. I'm going to use about a tablespoon. Of course, it's to taste. So if you love your chili very flavorful, like with chili, you can add a bit more. But you also have garlic powder, so we'll use a spoon of that as well. There. Now it's starting to add so much flavor. Now we can add our tomatoes. We've got enough brown on the meat. Our vegetables are half cooked already. So we are going to add a can of diced tomatoes. You have this in your box. And 1 small can of tomato paste. Now, tomato paste adds that extra intensity of flavor that you're looking for. There. Let's start to mix this together. And finally, we're going to add our last few things. Our kidney beans came in a can as well, but we do have to rinse them. So I'm going to show you at the sink. First of all, why do we rinse these kidney beans? We want to remove all that excess starch and salt and improve the flavor of our chili. So I've got this in a colander like this. I'm going to give it a quick rinse. And then just catch it in a bowl underneath so you can bring it back to your pot. Okay, here are our final steps. We're going to put our kidney beans in. Oh, nice and thick. And a little bit of corn. I like the corn for color. It's up to you if you want to add it. And then to season, I always add a little bit of heat and a little bit of sweet for a good chili. So whatever you have in your pantry for heat, some people just add a little bit of hot pepper flakes. Some people love heat, so they put tons of hot sauce. I have this Frank's Red Hot, which is one of my favorite hot sauces. So I'm just going to give a couple tablespoons of this. Start light on the salt. You can always taste it and add more later. It's really hard to take salt out of a dish, but it's pretty easy to add more. So 1 teaspoon. And then sugar. I'm only going to put about a teaspoon of brown sugar. If you have white sugar, corn syrup, whatever you have, about a tablespoon is going to be sufficient to cut that acid. Sometimes a tomato product just tastes too acidic. So this mellows it out a little bit. We mix this all together. It's going to simmer for maybe 15 minutes and your dinner is ready to go. So it's been about 15 to 20 minutes now and it looks like it's almost ready. I can tell by the crunch of the carrot if it's really ready, because carrots take the longest to cook. So I'm going to try carrot. A little bit of the sauce. It's also good to taste test because right now we put some of these flavorings in earlier, but now that it's simmered down, had a chance to develop flavor, we can now taste what it will actually taste like. I really like it, but tiny bit more salt. It has that heat. I can taste a little bit of sweet. Now the reason we simmer it for this long is not just to cook the vegetables, which is of course really important, but to develop that flavor. And the cool thing about chili is you eat it the second day and it tastes even better because the flavors have had a little bit more time to develop. And as you can see, there's quite a bit here, so you can have quite a bit of leftovers. Chili also freezes really great. You can toss it in your freezer in a yogurt container or something, and it will last for 3 months in your freezer. All right, one more taste test. We're ready to rock. That's right. Okay, so now the exciting part. Okay, so we are going to serve up a bowl of chili because I can't just make this without having my own bowl of chili. Another note, as I was simmering, I added a little bit of water, about half a can of water, just so you can simmer it back down to the original texture. Need a bit of water so it doesn't dry out while it's simmering. There we go. Nice hearty bowl of chili, lots of vegetables in there. Saves making a salad. You got all your vegetables and your meat. We've got our bread on the side, so this makes a complete meal. So I'm gonna take one of these, crack it open. Look at that. Look at that texture. The cheese biscuit. A little bit of butter on top. And then we can enjoy this together. It was a pleasure to be part of this, and I'm excited for the next time we meet together. We're going to be working on some Italian foods, so I look forward to seeing you next time.